Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Down Vishnu Pad Padamamsa Parajacharya Astro Tarasata Sushiman. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Down Vishnu Pad Padamamsa Parajacharya Astro Tarasata Sushiman. Shringa Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Premsiko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srila Sari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Godan Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the Sama devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the Sama devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the Sama devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 3, Chapter 30, Description by Lord Kapila of Adverse Fruitive Activities. We're on text number 10. And I thought today's nice section from the verse would be arthair āpāditair gurvyā hiṁsayā, which means, the artha means by wealth, āpāditair, secured, and gurvyā, great, hiṁsayā, by violence. So he secures money by committing violence here and there. So this is a personality there. And Prabhupada quotes in the purport a Bengali proverb The person for whom I have stolen accuses me of being a thief. So this is the money he described as the passage money to hell. And then we'll talk about this really amazing analogy that's given of the clouds and the wind. It's presented to illustrate how a person absorbed in this material consciousness is unknowingly controlled by the powerful force of time. So let's dive into the verse. Arthair, āpāditair, gurvyā, hiṁsayetas-tataś, ca, tan, puṣṇāti, yeṣāṁ, poṣeṇa, śeṣa-bhug, yāty svayam. Sorry. Arthair āpāditair gurvyā, hiṁsayetas-tataś, puṣṇāti yeṣāṁ poṣeṇa, śeṣa-bhug yāty svayam. Arthair āpāditair gurvyā, hiṁsayetas-tataś, puṣṇāti yeṣāṁ poṣeṇa, śeṣa-bhug yāty svayam. hiṁsayetas-tataś. Vaishnavis. Arthair āpāditair gurvyā, hiṁsayetas-tataś, puṣṇāti yeṣāṁ poṣeṇa, śeṣa-bhug yāty svayam. Arthair, by wealth. Āpāditair, secured. Gurvyā, great. Hiṁsayā, by violence. Itaḥ-tataḥ, here and there. Ca, and. Tan, them, family members. Puṣṇāti, he maintains. Yeṣāṁ, of whom. Poṣeṇa, because of the maintenance. Śeṣa, remnants. Bhuk, eating. Yāti, he goes. Adhaḥ, downwards. Svayam, himself. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. He secures money by committing violence here and there. And although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased. And he goes to hell for those for whom he has earned the money in such an irregular way. So I guess you could say thus purchased or thus stolen, maybe. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is a Bengali proverb, "The person for whom I have stolen accuses me of being a thief. The family members for whom an attached person acts in so many criminal ways are never satisfied. In illusion, an attached person serves such family members. By serving them, he is destined to enter into a hellish condition of life." For example, a thief steals something to maintain his family and is caught and imprisoned. This is the sum and substance of material existence and attachment to material society, friendship, and love. Although an attached family man is always engaged in getting money by hook or by crook for the maintenance of his family, he cannot enjoy more than what he could consume, even without such criminal activities. A man who eats 8 ounces of foodstuffs may have to maintain a big family and earn money by any means to support that family. But he himself is not offered more than what he can eat. And sometimes he eats the remnants that are left after his family members are fed. Even by earning money by unfair means, he cannot enjoy life for himself. That is called the covering illusion of māyā. The process of illusory service to society, country, and community is exactly the same everywhere. The same principle is applicable to even big national leaders. A national leader who is very great in serving his country is sometimes killed by his countrymen because of irregular service. In other words, one cannot satisfy his dependents by this illusory service. Although one cannot get out of the service because servant is his constitutional position. A living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Being, but he forgets that he has to render service to the Supreme Being and diverts his attention to serving others. This is called māyā. By serving others, he falsely thinks that he is master. The head of a family thinks of himself as the master of the family, or the leader of a nation thinks of himself as the master of the nation, whereas actually he is serving. And by serving māyā, he is going, or gradually going to hell. Therefore, a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all his wealth, his intelligence, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. So that's the end of the purport. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshushonuitanena Tasmai Shri Gurvyā Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swavadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. Vanchakopa Chubhishta Kripa Sindhu Vicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namam Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Skybhutale Shrimati Jai Padaka Swami Nitinamane Namachara Padayane Nityakripa Padayane Gorakate Damodar Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Skybhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvase Sunyavadi Paschata Desatagne. Okay, the verse again. I had to reset it because I added a few things this morning and it didn't update, so this is a translation. He secures money by committing violence here and there, and although he employs it in the service of his family, he himself eats only a little portion of the food thus purchased, and he goes to hell for those whom he earned the money in such an irregular way. So, if you notice there, Srila Prabhupada here talks about the material society. As we see, it's underlined here. Prabhupada said, this is the sum and substance of material existence, and attachment to material society, friendship, and love. And so I was looking, Srila Prabhupada has so many references to this phrase, material society, friendship, and love. There's a lot in his purports, even in some verses, and in his lectures, and throughout different books. So I was just trying to get what is the fundamental perspective we're trying to get from this. And so this is a few of the things that I came up with. So that it's temporary, these relationships. They don't exist in the past, nor will they exist in the future. So therefore, at the present moment, they're actually illusions. And they said they're like a dream, these relationships, friendship and love. It's actually created by Māyā, exactly like a dream. And it's also described how it's impermanent, like a hotel stay. So it's like the association of a hotel full of tourists who are just visiting. And he talks about the problem of this material attachment, that they can't save us from suffering. None of this can. It can't save us from the onslaughts of the material energy, which is birth, old age, disease, and death. And they also create bondage. They're considered to be carnivorous, blood-sucking animals like jackals and wolves. We know where that's from, the 5th canto, where the forest plunders the senses. They exploit our energy. And how they're based on this bodily identification. So they think this is who they are, and they think these other people are mine. You see, and this is for someone else, that's for you, this is for me. So this is what it does, it brings fleeting pleasure. It's called chapala sukha labalagire. For a few minutes, they enjoy some pleasure, but there's so much labor behind that, so much work. And what's the alternative? Is Krishna consciousness, that we have the true well-wisher of one's so-called husband, relative, son, and father cannot be our well-wisher, but only Krishna. He's our well-wisher. And how do we get liberation from this material attachment? Is that we have to give up this attachment to society, friendship, and love, country, home, wife, children. And it's described in a verse that one who engages in full devotional service at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So this is what we have to do, fix our mind on Krishna. Just like there's a story, I think it's in the 9th canto, about Devayani, the daughter of Sukracharya, and she gave up her imaginary position in this material world, and she completely fixed her mind on Krishna. And therefore she achieved liberation from this gross body and subtle body. So this is very nicely described there. And then I underlined a few other sections in the purport. Here, Srila Prabhupada says, a national leader who is very great in serving his country is sometimes killed by his countrymen because of irregular service. So we know actually who Srila Prabhupada is referring to here. We know that originally, Prabhupada had great respect for Gandhi before meeting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. But then after meeting his Prabhupada, and then he concluded that this is the real Mahatma, is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, after taking sannyas, he wrote a letter to Gandhi and it advised him to use his influence to preach Bhagavad Gita. Your name is Mahatma. Purify your name and preach the Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada cited that verse, yad achariti shreshtas, that whatever great people do, the common men follow. So he warned Gandhi that, otherwise you'll have a very bad end, you see. But Gandhi never received the letter. I guess he was too busy. But ultimately he was killed by his own people, an Indian. And so it's his efforts to keep the Hindus and the Muslims together, and prevent the partition of India and Pakistan. Those wishes were not fulfilled. And it's described that actually Gandhi was very sad in his final days because of his dreams weren't realized. And he was, actually no one was with him. He was left alone. So everyone left. Nehru became prime minister, and then Gandhi was alone. So this is an example of how even great national leaders, they can't satisfy everyone through their material service. And they ultimately face disappointment. So this is why we have to have that spiritual foundation. And then I think the last section here, Prabhupada says, therefore a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage everything in his service. So we'll talk about that more towards the end. So we'll go on next here, going back to this metaphor, the analogy of the clouds and the wind, which is described as the Gana Avili. It's a mass cloud. Agana means clouds, and Avalihi means mass. So this presents how a person absorbed in material consciousness is unknowingly controlled by this powerful force. And so there's many references and how it's broken down. This is actually the first verse in this chapter, and it kind of sets the stage for everything that's going to be discussed. And this is one thing to keep in mind, that how we're being carried. You see, sometimes we think we're working so hard and it's all pulled away. We're just carried along like the clouds in the wind. This is what happens. So these massive clouds, they actually represent the person deeply engrossed in material consciousness. So just as these clouds are temporary, you see the small ones just disappear. So this is our material existence, our body, our possessions, everything, it's temporary. And the powerful wind, it represents the strength of the time factor, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's an irresistible force, and it just carries everything along. So this analogy highlights the ignorance of the materially conscious person. Just as the massive clouds, unaware of the powerful wind, dictating its movements and direction, a person deeply attached to material pursuits is oblivious to the relentless destructive influence of time. And in many of those purports, and in the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada says that this unawareness of the time's power and how valuable it is. We talked about that in a previous class, how we can't get a single moment time. It's not, it's irretrievable, right? And then we have a fixed lifespan. We're carried away unknowingly, the futility of material pursuits and the ignorance of this eternal nature. So in essence, the analogy of the cloud wind, it serves as a powerful reminder that how transient this nature is of the material existence, and how we have such an overwhelming influence of time. So this is very nicely described there. So let's just get a bird's eye view, go back to see what has happened, a review, and then we'll get some kind of preview of what's coming. So the first 18 verses talks about the life and death of a materialist. And this is where we are right now in the 10th verse. So we're discussing this life. So it talks about the power of time. We just discussed that a little bit. And then how he finds satisfaction even in hellish situations. Like Indra becoming a hog. And the impetus for family life, it's deep-rooted attachment. And how, where we are now, it's constant anxiety to maintain family. We commit violence and we go to hell. So there's 3 verses that talk about that. And how we're unsuccessful in maintaining the family, desiring others' wealth, failures, and all it results in disrespect from your own family. So, and then it ends in old age, disease, and death. The life and death of a materialist. And then it goes on to the second section is his post death experience and how he becomes so afraid when he sees the messengers of death. And on the way to hell, it's going to describe what it's like. He suffers on the way to hell, and he passes 99,000 yojanas in a very short time. So it shows the power of the subtle body, and how it describes the various hellish punishments, which kind of hinted to in our verse today that he goes to hell. And then it's to describe those punishments and how they're even visible on earth. We can see them. And who goes to hell? One who maintains oneself and family by sinful means. He goes to this āpāditair. So that's all described in this chapter. So the life of a materialist. So you can go like, it's almost like describing his life and death. It's like a journey, like a timeline you can see, in this chapter where it goes, his living in material consciousness. He engages in sinful activity for family maintenance. He experiences constant anxiety and frustration, suffering old age and neglect. He remains attached despite this neglect. He faces disease and invalidity. He's approaching death and distress. He's dying in grief and ignorance. And then he encounters the messengers of Yamaraj. And then he's arrested and bound. And then he's on the journey to Yamaraj's abode. And then he reaches there and he has to undergo torturous punishments. And he experiences these different hells it's going to be described. And then what happens? It goes again. There's another cycle. Suffering again and then rebirth. So this is the importance of Krishna consciousness, so that we can get out of this cycle. And this is the last part, the hell, lower births, human birth again in the cycle. So this is it. It's all described in this particular chapter, especially this āpāditair. It's actually a hell, but it's actually a state that was created by Lord Brahma. It's a state of ignorance, this āpāditair. It represents the darkness of ignorance. And that's described in the third canto, the beginning of this third canto. And one believes that death is the ultimate end. So it leads to a nihilistic philosophy is live prosperously by any means, since nothing matters after death. So this is the materialistic viewpoint. And so the root cause is this ignorance, and it stems from this darkness, this tamas, where 99% of beings misidentify with their temporary bodies, rather than recognizing themselves as eternal souls. So this is that misconception that's created by Lord Brahma to keep us in this attachment, this illusion and madness for material enjoyment. So this is all described there. So you could see we fall down and down. But actually Krishna consciousness can protect us from this. It's a spiritual insurance policy that even if you practice imperfectly, it guarantees at minimum a human birth in the next life, rather than these hellish conditions. It's like a protective shield against descending like this into lower species of life. So this is one of the hells that's described in this particular chapter, the āpāditair. And this is reserved for those who cheat others, which is described in this verse, and enjoy with their wives and children. And it's compared to a tree being chopped at its roots, causing a loss of intelligence and sight. There wasn't really a description showing that, but I zoomed in on this one, this rurva and maharurva. And this is destinations for those who maintain their bodies by harming others. In these houses, these fierce animals called rurus, they inflict severe pain by attacking and devouring the flesh of these sinful persons. So this is the āpāditair, rurva, and maharurva. And this is the other one described in this verse. It's described as kumbhi paka. It's a hell reserved for those who cook animals alive for the pleasure of their tongues. So such persons are, it's described that they're even condemned by cannibals, and they're cooked in boiling oil in the afterlife. So each of these descriptions are a stark reminder of the karmic consequences of living solely for our bodily pleasures while we're harming others. So it's interesting, we're talking about death. But there was an interesting conversation where the god of death, we know Yamaraj, was asking the wise King Yudhishthira many questions. And I just picked out a few of those questions. And he asked him, what is more numerous than the blades of grass on the surface of planet Earth? Anyone take a guess? It's actually the desires of the living entities. They're endless, innumerable. They're practically unlimited. And we said, what's faster than the wind? Anybody know? Faster than the wind. The mind, exactly. It travels at such phenomenal pace. And it's hinted in this chapter when on the way to hell, we're traveling the speed of mind. And so many things happen. And it's very quick like that. And then there's a couple of nice questions. It's like a one-word answer. What does one have to give up so they have no regrets in their life? Anyone know? Anger. It's actually one letter short of danger is anger. Just see how much trouble you get in with anger. So what does one have to give up to become wealthy? Which is interesting. It's just the opposite of most people think. Greed, exactly. Yeah. So it's described the wealthiest person is not the one who has the most, but the wealthiest person is the one who needs the least. And then what he says, what does one have to give up to be loved by everyone? Exactly, envy. Because our tendency is to compare, to compete, to bring others down. You know, they have something more than I have, and then we distance ourselves from other people. And then he says here, this is an interesting one. Who is happy in this world? We're talking about it's described you can't be happy here, right? But Yamaraj asked Yudhishthira, who is happy in this world? Can you know? Excuse me? Yeah, it's described two types of people, a fool and a paramahamsa. But this is not the answer. That's a good answer, though. But he says one is happy if they eat food cooked at home and they don't have to travel far away to earn their living and they have no debts. So it just shows you the prediction of the future state of civilization. People have to commute miles. They have to eat what's neglectedly given them, or junk food, you know. It's described, people, it's amazing. And everyone's in debt. Before you even get out of school, you're in debt. So nobody's happy. It's amazing. So this is the most important question. What is the most amazing thing in this world? Exactly. Ahani bhutani gachantiha yamalayam śeṣa-stavaram ichati kim acharyam ātā param. The most amazing thing in the world is that every single day people are dying. And the most amazing thing is, I think I'm going to live here forever. So this is how oblivious we are to the time factor. So that's described there. So that's the conversation between Yamaraj and King Yudhishthira. So this remind me of this song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's from his Kalyana Kalpataru. And this is the title of the song, Rare Human Birth Wasted. So we don't have time to sing the song, but I like to just kind of go through some of the verses. You know the song, Durlabha Manava Janama Labhya Samsare Krishna Bhajinu Dukkha Kahibo Kare. I'm sure many of you know that song. So this is what he says. The human form of life is the rarest opportunity for attaining spiritual perfection. But now I am lamenting bitterly because I have somehow or another been born with such an opportunity and have wasted it by never worshiping Lord Krishna. Oh, to whom shall I tell the tale of this misery? Having married and entered into the entanglements of materialistic family life, I passed my time in vain. I never got any tangible gain or permanent benefit, only trouble and botheration. What kind of world is this anyway? It seems to be just like a magic lantern show that I saw at a carnival, wherein so many shadows and optical illusions dance magically before my eyes. I feel great attachment and identification with such world, and thus day after day passes by fruitlessly without any purpose whatsoever. When this body drops dead on the ground, then what will remain mine? At that moment, all my sons and dearest loved ones will not be able to give me any happiness. I work hard just like an ass every day, and now I'm wondering, for whom am I working so hard? I am still surrounded by so many illusions. I waste every day in useless, insignificant work, and I waste every night controlled by sleep. And in every 24 hours, I never for 1 second consider that cruel death is sitting very close by my side. I imagine that I live a very carefree lifestyle, sometimes eating a lot or eating a little if I feel like it. Sometimes I see nice things around the town, or sometimes I do not go out at all. Sometimes I wear opulent clothing, or if I'm in the mood, I'll wear something simple. I live so carefree that I never consider that one day I will have to give up this body. But actually, my poor heart is plagued by constant anxieties about the maintenance and daily turmoils created by my body, my house, my wife, my family members, and my social obligations. All these anxieties are pinching me sharply and destroying all my intelligence. It's a very beautiful song. Actually rhymes very nicely, like the verses end like ante esaba, and then the next line, bye baba, rohibe, koribe. It's amazing. So he talks about how the body is thrown in the crematorium ground, crows come and eat it, ants, and then it just goes on and on and on. So there's like 14 verses. So then he ends with this last verse. Just see, this is the ultimate destination of this material body. And the most amazing thing is that all of my material opulences, house, family, and friends have exactly the same destination. Therefore I ask of anyone who has any sharp intelligence, please give up all these temporary illusions presented by Māyā and kindly search after the means to get pure devotion to Lord Krishna. For this is the only eternal, tangible truth. And there's another song also, which we don't have time to go into, but the Bhaja Hure Mana, Prabhupada gives a wonderful purport. And in there he talks about the importance of association, the valuable form of human life. It should be spent in good association. And the spiritual versus material consciousness is that it's awakened by associating with advanced souls. So that's very nicely described there. So this is the insane path we talked about. We go through this dark desire, through this mud and mire. It's just amazing. We're, as we described here. And then the sane path, which is very nicely described. That's beyond all this flesh and bone. We know it's truly known. So there's some interesting topics I had about that. But anyway, I'll read one thing that Prabhupada said. This Krishna consciousness temple is the hospital for the diseased spirit soul. And everyone is diseased. Come to this hospital. We shall take care of you and cure your material disease. That was in Auckland, April 14th, 1972. And then Prabhupada quotes a wonderful verse, which we'd like to, you could chant together real quick here. Karma jamburi yuktahi, phalam tvaktva manesinaha, janma bandha vinirmukta, padam gachanti amalam. And then the translation, by thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain to the stage beyond all miseries by going back home, back to Godhead. So then I had another nice verse to end with, is this verse from the 10th canto, and which goes that when we accept the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna, this whole material energy is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print, you see, where we don't have danger at every step. So that's how we can cross over this material world. And then to conclude, these teachings of Lord Kapila, how the transit nature of material attachments, and try to understand our spiritual identity, to understand the eternal reality. So this is the wisdom, and we learn from this particular section. So I'd like to end another quote. Here Prabhupada says, this is from the Krishna book. Actually, Prabhupada says at the end of the last purport, therefore a sane man should come to the point of Krishna consciousness and engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, applying his whole life, all his wealth, his entire intelligence, and his full power of speaking. And in the Krishna book, chapter 46, when Uddhava visits Vrindavan, Krishna is telling Uddhava, he says, the gopis are always absorbed in thoughts of me. They have dedicated body, desire, life, and soul to me. I'm anxious not only for the gopis, but for anyone who sacrifices society, friendship, love, and personal comforts for me. It is my duty to protect such exalted devotees. So that's so nice, Prabhupada said. So just as Devahuti found solace and enlightenment, we can also, in our own journey towards spiritual realization, realize this eternal reality. So I'll end there and ask any comments or questions or realizations. I see a hand. Thank you.
Thank you. So the point that if you can bring up the translation back, he secures money by committing violence here and there. So it looks like it is a exception scenario, whereas looks like towards the end in the purport, it is looking like applying to all karmi people. So is this specifically meant to karmis who are stealing, or general karmis who are staying away from Krishna, and therefore by definition they're stealing something from Krishna?
Yes, actually, when it says here such an irregular way, I think that's the main point. It means that we're stealing, we're actually taking from others illegally. But if you earn a pious life and you do things properly, then, and if you offer the results to Krishna, then you could be elevated gradually. So, but even if if you're just using it for yourself, even if you're getting it in a pious way, in a proper way, still it's sinful because you're not offering it to Krishna. So yeah.
That's what I would. Thanks.
Yeah, hope that answers. Any other comments, questions? Yes, back there.
What is the difference between Rama and Krishna?
So here we see Krishna and Balaram. Krishna is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Balaram is his brother. And so we have Krishna and Balaram on the altar here on the left come as Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And they're also on the right as Krishna as Lord Jagannath, and on the left as Balaram. And their sister is in the middle. Balaram. Balaram, yes. That's it. Okay, any other comments, questions? Thank you for your kind attention. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
It's a beautiful presentation, by the way, Prabhu.
Jai, thank you. Sure, you can. You want to give it to someone? You want to give it to someone, or is it for you? Oh, who's going to get it? Who's the lucky person? Who's the lucky person? Oh. Thank you. Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. You want to take some of this too? It's maha. Yeah, sure. Hare Krishna. Balaram. B-A-L-A. And then R-A-M. Yeah. Yeah. Bala means strength and Rama means beauty. Beauty. Beautiful. Yeah. Sure. Hare Krishna. Okay. Oh. Oh, yeah, yeah. So this is a program called Keynote. It's an Apple program. So you can have the images, see, you could present. And then when you present it, you could show your notes. So this is what you see. But then I could show you, you could rehearse the slideshow. So I could see the purport. And then I could also see my notes, see? Like that. Thank you, Prabhu. That's nice. Yeah, nice. Is that a new mic? No? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh, testing, testing, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna.